Back in the late 1980s, a new toy hit the markets, and it was a toy that would change kids' desires for Christmas for years and years to come. And it is something that has changed in my childhood as well. Itty bitty little toys known as Micro Machines. They exist today, they're still around, and they are fascinating. They've had some moments where they've disappeared for a little while and then came back onto shelves, and fantastic stuff, and some were obviously smaller than others. We're going to talk about several layers of this and go to the basic history of Micro Machines, and I want to share with you a little bit of some stuff that I personally have gotten to experience and share with you all, because Micro Machines has gone through quite a long and interesting history, because it was in the early 90s that it hit a full-on crazy time. And so they debuted in 1987, and I was not quite around for and the ability to appreciate that era. However, somehow we got a hold of something that happened in 1991. One of the things that truly made everything special with Micro Machines. Now, Micro Machines weren't just small vehicles, right? They were obviously, as you can see behind here, turned into military stuff. And if you see, there's something hidden just over here. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But they also started giving, with their play sets and their booster packs, whatever they would call them, figures. And so this is obviously a boat style thing. It wouldn't actually float, this little guy. He would probably, if he does float, be upside down. But they would eventually introduce all manner of different concepts of small characters. Let's see if there's anything. There's nothing on the bottom of him. But this was produced by Galoob, and then Hasbro, I believe, bought them out later on. And yeah, they also had Moshita, that was one of the fastest talkers in the world and fastest talking person in 1988. And so he did a commercial for them showing their itty bitty toys that fit in the palm of your hand. And as you can see, this lunar rover, let's see if it has any dates on the bottom. Oh, there's something. It says, oh my goodness. Let's see if we can see what year this one was from. Is that 1989? I think so. Even with the camera, I can barely make it out. I think it's 1989, and it says Galoob there. So these are actually older than some of our other stuff, but as you can tell, it has been broken apart. That thing right in the middle is gone. The antennas and stuff here as well, gone, and there was something else right there. Quite a few pieces are missing here because these saw a lot of play, and they are an amazing concept. What if instead of getting bigger and more epic with your vehicles and your stuff, what if we shrink them down? But notice something else, like they're not just shrunk down. They're also very highly detailed, especially for the 80s into the 90s. They're quite a little vehicle. And some of these are in decent shape, and then others, as you can tell, are not. They've seen better days, but they had working wheels. Some even had the ability to open up and swallow these itty bitty little ones. Let me see, I've got another micro machine. Really cool. Those wheels actually worked on these little guys too. And some of them, I think, glowed in the dark, and I'm guessing this is actually licensed Micro Machine, that maybe it glows in the dark, I don't know. But it's a very interesting color because we have two versions of this truck. And basically the identical thing, just very, very interesting styles. And then the wheels are different colorings though, but identical body style. Very interesting. So Micro Machines, they went small, but then they went big. And we're going to get to that here in just a second. In 1998, they were bought by Hasbro. And what was interesting was when Hasbro got them, Micro Machines was deprioritized. And so there was points where it would partner up with other pieces of material. This was something I found and I think it was given to me, and you can tell right there's a small break in the neck, but this is a Romulan warbird from Star Trek. There was a Star Trek Micro Machines line, and someday I hope to kind of collect those just as a fun little piece to sit on a shelf in a box, because they're a special thing, because I played with Micro Machines as a kid, but we didn't, as a kid I didn't know or care about Star Trek till I was probably in junior high. And by that point I wasn't playing with Micro Machines, but now I would love to have something of this scale. And honestly, the detail is pretty impressive. There's some spots obviously on this that are struggling, but even in the middle here, it's got some detail, and it's really cool. Amazing stuff here. We also would have aircraft and vehicles like this that would actually spin. They would work. Iguana Air Tours. Now, one of the big things that Micro Machines did was it got small with its concept here, and that was amazing. And as you can tell here, this has been rubbed off slowly over time, just because we played with these a lot. I think it says Emerald Rocket. It was what was printed there. But that's the beauty of it. If a toy is actually a toy, it looks like this after a while. You know what I'm saying? It's been used. It's seen its time. And actually getting these out for my daughters to even look at, they had a great time for a day or two of just playing and experiencing the things that their dad had as a kid, and they had no idea that these existed. Because honestly, when they say they don't make them like they used to, there's some truth here, because there's some detail here, and this is really impressive. And as you can tell, it's missing a little small blade right there that's still got it on this other side, but you can see the screw very clearly, right? This is just so fascinating that they had such a detail and just amazing design, especially for the 80s into the 90s. But in 1991, things changed. We're going to have to move this out of the way, because in 1991 they brought out this. They had done play sets throughout the years, and the idea of a play set is, what if we took a concept and the Micro Machines are small, but we make a large play set to handle them, to collect them, to put them in and play. Let's get a good view right there. Micro Machines, the original scale miniatures. Does anybody remember the catchphrase for Micro Machines? There's trying to remember off the top of my head, and it just left me. Remember, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing. So this is, in fact, and I don't know if I have enough room, the super van, and we're gonna just dive into this thing, because what this is, you know what, we'll just back up just a little bit, get a quick view. This is the super van. This thing is massive for Micro Machines and pure beauty, as you can see. And this is the thing you're going to notice. This has been played with pretty hard, and the stickers and the things that are on it have seen better days. And I honestly wouldn't have it much of any other way, because it was used. But you'll see, like, that's the one problem with 80s and 90s stuff, that there wasn't printing on very often. There was stickers. And stickers are the bane of my existence, because stickers fall apart. Now, as you can see, there's little latches, and I'm afraid to do this, because once you do this, this thing is very hard to get back together. But we can at least experience a piece of my childhood, and I have a sneaking suspicion several of you that's watching this video, your childhood as well. This is something very, very special. Now, Micro Machines are something amazing, and we're going to talk through it. We may have to unhook the camera to really get a full scope of this beauty. And move the military stuff out of the way for a minute. All right. Yep, we're going to unhook. I'm sorry for what I'm doing there for a second. I just want to make sure you guys can see it all. This is the actual play set, completely folded out for the car, or the super van. And as you can tell, right, there are some issues. There are stickers that have slowly peeled up over time, and now they don't do what they should. I don't remember if we had to put the stickers on or not. If it wasn't us, which I kind of guess it was, but I don't know for sure, because some of these stickers are on pretty derpily. It's definitely seen better days, and as you can tell, there's some pieces that are still somewhere probably, but we're not entirely sure where they are, and or trying to find them in the absolute collection that we have is kind of tough. Another thing to note, and this is actually one of my favorite cars, it's missing its hood. But as you'll notice, the doors open, and actually the back as well with that front hood opens as well. Really just a neat concept, right? Micro Machines were a beautiful, beautiful thing. And their idea was very simple. You get to play in these areas and apparently fall off of things. So very interesting. You could actually plug these in there and closing doors, opening doors there. Really neat stuff. There was a bridge here. I don't know if we still have the bridge or not. And I think we still have the other orange piece, but really interesting here. What we've got here is some fans for a bit of a race. And what you can tell here is the racetrack doesn't work anymore because of the stickers. But the idea behind it was this, that you would get these all the way back, put your car right there. Let's see if we can get it to even do anything, and push the button. And it actually, yeah, it went. It had a wreck. And, you know, just a quick little race. But very interesting, you know. The drag strip here is got some parking. An old police station with obviously some stuff that went on top of it that we don't have anymore or went somewhere. And the mountain here. So you could drive up onto that. Have your scenic view, right? And I mean, what is this place? I mean, it's partially a collection area for your vehicles, because you could really, for parts of them, you could actually put a lot of vehicles down in the center section and they would be decently safe. They would definitely roll around and go every which way if you picked it up and shook it, but they would at least be in a certain spot, and then you could bring it to your friend's house and you guys could play Micro Machines. And so you've got a pit area, no parking, a little bit of a railroad track, very interesting here, some spots for some cars to park, and just a beautiful set. But as you can tell, the stickers have not done well, and you can even see we tried to put some other stickers on it to try to keep it down as kids, and it didn't work. It's seen better days. But here's another spot we can look at. There is actually a bit of a storage area, in essence, down below this spot. Really cool. There's something down there. You see that? Huh. There's something down in there. We'll have to look about that and investigate later. I don't know what that is. I think it's just a sticker, but that's really interesting. There's something blue down there that's extra for me, too. And so, last little thing here, an airport. So then you could have your helicopters on the helipad and some airplanes. Quite the set here, right? Quite the set. I'm going to get us back hooked in so we can talk a little further about one last thing, because I think we're going to have to do a part 2 for this, because one of the things that really interested us as kids, because by the time I was at the point of interest in these, and it wasn't a choking hazard, it was a little bit later. And I believe it was 1996 for the set that we've already shown. The military stuff was a big deal. And so Micro Machines, I think if they had continued and really leaned into this idea of, hey, let's get license deals, they would have had crazy business, especially if Hasbro had really leaned into that. I think we would have had such an amazing thing. But they didn't. They decided it wasn't worth it and let it die off for a little while, and that's really sad. But then it's had some deals with Star Wars and other things. Can you imagine if Micro Machines would have had deals with Halo, right? Would have had deals with some of our video games and other things in media. Yeah, we'll hook him together later. And even the wheels moved on this big old thing. That's amazing. But yeah, in 1996 there was, in several years, a military playset. And as you can tell, it's again, the reason I am so happy about having these things is they're not necessarily worth a whole lot at this point because of what we've done to them. But because they represent my childhood, but also I think for all of us that know these toys, it is truly something spectacular. And from what I could tell on the backs of some advertisements, and we'll show you at least the first one real quick here. Yeah, that's the first one. So let's talk about this for just a second. This is actually a blister pack expansion celebrating 10 years. So pretty interesting stuff here just to look at. So apparently I bought it at Kmart or whoever did for $4. It was on sale. And this was the blister pack section where the figurines were. And usually what you would see would be in each one of these. So if you bought Freedom Force Aero Squadron right here, you get 2 troops, 2 aircraft, and an aircraft carrier. And then the SEALs would have this, is that a Chinook? I think I have this set, or at least parts of it. I think I do. And then a little buggy, an amphibious boat, like a blow-up boat concept thing, and then some SEALs, which is really cool. So, oh, that's interesting. There's on the good side of one of those missile tank things. I have the bad guys version of that. There's some of these that I haven't collected, and kind of sad I never did. So for example, I never got the Meerkat Marauders, and we'll actually show you several of these things, but we'll show you a little later. I collected Gamma Force and very proud of that. First Alert Squadron though, what in the world are we looking at right there? Right? Some of these you're just like, I don't want them. Well, the reason being, like, example, I didn't go for Gulf Aero Squadron, in part because I couldn't find it, I don't think, but also harder to play with some of this stuff because the scale is a little bit off. Obviously, this is not all to scale here, but I'll show you some more of these things. I wish I'd gotten Xenon Warriors, although I have that vehicle in the back and this. I don't have that. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe somebody took it. I don't know. I have no idea. But I have the other 2, so I guess I do have this pack, but I'm missing that thing. I vaguely remember seeing that though, but it disappeared after a while, so something must have happened. Man, now I'm wondering what happened there. That's kind of the interesting thing, unfortunately, that you go back and you realize you're missing things. For some reason, I have the Classic Series. Don't know why. I think it was just because it was the only one that I remember seeing one time at a store, and I wish we had gotten the War Series 1950s right here with the Sherman. Fantastic. 1940s, 1950s, the 40s gets a few sets because, and we'll get to look at these here in a little bit, maybe in another video, because I have all these first 2, and I think I still have all the pieces to them. Pretty neat. So, yeah, but the really neat thing down here too, and I'm shocked that this says here they'll be available at different times in 1997. Thunder Crossing was out in 1996, from what I understand, and so. This is it. This is Thunder Crossing, and let's go through. I actually have several play sets to show you, and I'll real quick though too. As Micro Machines kind of evolved over the years, they started doing things like this. Really cool concept, but over time they're not a good concept because they break. This actually is one of the ones that withstood the test of time. This one also pretty decent, but these smaller sets, honestly, were some of the better ones just because they were smaller, they held together better, and they were just less, like, this thing, really cool concept, same as this, but they're very, as you'll see in hopefully our next video, if you like, share, and subscribe so we can get more people viewing all this, we'll go through and look at some of this stuff as well, because these things, they don't hold up very well. They're not made of the same plastic as the stuff like this. So let's go through and at least give you a quick rundown of the basics here. We have 2 of the firing weapons here. I'm guessing this is actually not supposed to be the correct one, but as you can tell, they don't quite fit in there very well, and this one has seen better days, right? The little super glue actually would get that closed up, but put a little missile in there and it'll lock in place, and then you pull the trigger and it should fire, although this one's acting like it's, well, maybe it'll react once it's got something in it. Let's see if we can find something to shoot off, but I don't really have a whole lot left of the old darts because they're harder to, well, we were rough on them. I'll just be really honest. We were really rough on them. I can't find any. So it's also got a guard tower. Several pieces on here were quote unquote breakable in the sense that they would fall over. The reason being, all right, is so that, you can see the paint chipping off, you'd fire these missiles and knock stuff over on the other side. And so we also had a guard tower that would come off. Really cool little stickers on there too. It had a little thing here, and it's missing, as you can tell, the gate that would be there to block the path here. We also have a bunker here, little guardrails areas and things like that. And one of the neatest things about this was actually a destructible environment, that this sits on an actual button that goes into this little bridge right here. When it's pushed, you pop it up, and then ironically, because of the bridge links right here, it can keep it together, which is kind of funny. But eventually it will fall apart, and usually you'd have something on there just to make it look fun. I believe this is one of the tanks from this set. As you can tell, the machine gun has broken off, unfortunately. And it's a beautiful piece, and man, let's see what the dates are on here. Ooh, that's hard to read. Good gracious, that's hard to read. Yeah, I don't know. 1995, I think. Let me know down in the comments below if you can tell. So, pretty old copyright there. It's funny, you get on the bottom of this, I think it said 1994 for their copyright date for some reason, so they were in testing for quite a while. But look at the detail on this. This is just supposed to be one of the enemy tanks, and honestly, what an amazing amount of detail and paint job and stuff, especially for this era. Like, if they would have thought about it, what's that white right there? Huh, I don't know. If they would have thought about it, they could have made a war game on top of this with dice and stuff, and man, you would have had an absolute blast. Like, Micro Machines upgrade. And I don't have all the troops from this, but I did have one of the troops that still existed. I don't know what happened to the other guy. And he actually isn't too bad, too shabby as far as paint still on him. Really pretty cool. The Radio Man. And we'll look at some of the details on the other side of this as well. But beautiful, beautiful figures and concepts in Micro Machines as a whole. I wanted to start with the intro there. But there's your little bunker, and as you can tell, some of the the sticker is starting to come off. I think a little super glue might actually help that. And it's got a pattern on here. Like, this is impressive. The amount of detail and the difference that there's different color here on the pathway than just the normal stuff on here. I'm knocking everything off, and like color right here and color right there, and then stickers. Like, these were serious toys. And then like a little escape like area, and you could drive underneath this area. Let's see what the mechanism, right? Here's the mechanism for the bridge. That's the thing that it's barely holding it up at this point because it's just so old, but really cool. And I think it was Louis Galoob. So the G would be the Galoob 1994. And lastly, oh, I'm dropping all sorts of pieces to this. Thunder Crossing, man, it's a neat little play set. It's so small and simple, but yet you could drive underneath it, hide your stuff, have one of your tanks just barely popping out right here, and then try to fire at it with the missile from right here. Micro Machines knew what they were doing, and they knocked it out of the park. And I'm just sad that it disappeared for a time, but my understanding is even now that they're still around, and they've started making some Star Wars stuff as well, which I've actually got a Micro Machines Y-Wing sitting somewhere that absolutely just love to have. That I literally just found it to make sure, because I love the Y-Wing itself, and I wanted a Micro Machine of it, and just had to make sure that I had one of those. So Micro Machines, have you played with them? If we have some interest in all of this, we'll make a second video and actually show a lot of military stuff and all the fun collection that we have to share and enjoy together, because those of you that are watching this, I have a sneaking suspicion you played with these things as a kid, and these were amazing toys. And I think just the regular stuff was awesome, but especially the military stuff just took it to a whole nother level, because it made it to where, oh, look at that, the turret even moves. Forgot about that. And some of the stuff that just moves on here, it's like, wow, they didn't have to do that, but they did because they cared. That's the sign of a great toy, and a toy that just captures the imagination. Let me know down in the comments below. Micro Machines, have you played it? What was your favorite part? Please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love to get this passed around the YouTube, so that way we can just share our joy and our experiences with this wonderful toy known as Micro Machines. And hopefully I'll see you again for a part 2 to this video as well. I've been Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. Take care. Bye, y'all.